The crystalline moons of Zafara 7 cast their pale light across the frozen tundra as Burak's survival pod hissed open, releasing a plume of cryogenic vapor into the thin atmosphere. His neural implant immediately began cataloging the atmospheric composition: 78% nitrogen, 19% oxygen, trace amounts of argon and carbon dioxide. Breathable. But the temperature readings showed minus 40 degrees Celsius. He had exactly 72 hours before his metabolic enhancers would fail in this cold. Burak stumbled from the wreckage, his exosuit's heating coils already straining against the hostile environment. The transport ship Prometheus Dawn had been conducting a routine geological survey when the meteor storm struck. He was the only survivor, crash-landed on an uncharted moon that orbital scans had marked as potentially inhabited by megafauna. The warning proved accurate. Within the first hour, Burak detected them before he saw them, infrared signatures blooming across his visor's display. 7 massive shapes, each radiating heat signatures consistent with endothermic metabolism. The creatures emerged from behind ice formations, their bodies covered in thick, bioluminescent fur that pulsed with soft blue light, illuminating the frozen landscape around them. They were Kethril apex predators, classified in the xenobiology databases as Category 5 threats. 4-legged, standing nearly 3 meters at the shoulder, with elongated snouts filled with serrated teeth designed for ripping through the armored hides of their prey. Their eyes, multiple sets arranged across broad skulls, reflected the moonlight like polished obsidian. The largest Kethril, presumably the pack alpha, lowered its massive head and released a subsonic growl that Burak felt in his chest cavity despite his suit's dampening systems. His tactical AI highlighted escape routes, calculated combat probabilities, all unfavorable. 7 against 1. No weapons beyond a standard-issue plasma cutter meant for emergency hull breaches, not wildlife defense. The pack began to circle. Burak's training kicked in. He dropped to one knee, making himself smaller, less threatening. He deactivated his suit's external speakers and switched to passive observation mode. The Kethril communicated through a complex system of bioluminescent patterns rippling across their fur, a visual language his neural implant struggled to decode. The alpha took a step forward. Then another. Burak's heart rate spiked. The suit injected a mild sedative to keep him calm, rational. He had perhaps 30 seconds before the alpha decided whether he was prey, threat, or something to be investigated and subsequently eliminated. Then something small darted between the legs of the surrounding predators. A cub. It was barely the size of a large dog, its bioluminescent fur flickering erratically, the Kethril equivalent of childhood babbling. The cub's movements were uncoordinated, enthusiastic, driven by curiosity rather than caution. The larger Kethril immediately shifted their stances, protective instincts overriding their aggressive postures. The cub approached Burak. His AI screamed warnings, but Burak remained still. The small creature sniffed at his boot, its whiskers actually sensitive electromagnetic receptors twitching as they analyzed the foreign materials of his exosuit. Then, with a movement that defied all xenobiological predictions, the cub pressed its body against Burak's leg and wrapped its small forelegs around his shin. It refused to let go. The pack reacted immediately. The alpha's bioluminescence flared angry crimson patterns. 2 others flanked Burak, their subsonic growls creating harmonic interference patterns that made his suit's sensors glitch. They were preparing to extract the cub, and Burak understood with perfect clarity that any movement on his part would be interpreted as aggression against their young. He would be dead in seconds, but the cub held tighter, its own bioluminescent patterns, shifting to what Burak's implant tentatively translated as safe, warm, comfortable. The small creature began to purr, a sound that resonated through the ice beneath them. Burak made a decision that contradicted every survival protocol. Slowly, incrementally, he reached down with one gloved hand and gently touched the cub's head. The fur was surprisingly coarse, designed to trap heat in multiple layers. Beneath the biological insulation, he could feel the rapid heartbeat of the young Kethril. its body temperature registering at 42 degrees Celsius. The Alpha froze. The entire pack went silent, their bioluminescence dimming to barely visible flickers. Buruk's AI couldn't interpret their reaction. The database had no precedent for this scenario, but he understood it on an instinctive level that transcended species barriers. They were waiting to see what he would do next. Buruk continued the gentle contact, his movements slow and deliberate. The cub's purring intensified. After several long seconds, it released his leg and rolled onto its back in the snow, exposing its vulnerable belly. A universal, mammalian gesture of trust. The Alpha's bioluminescence shifted from crimson to amber, then to soft green. Over the next hour, Buruk remained in that spot, allowing the pack to investigate him while the cub played around his boots. His suit's external temperature sensors recorded the Kethril gradually moving closer, their breath forming clouds of vapor that mingled with his own respirator exhaust. They were analyzing him, categorizing him, determining whether this strange bipedal creature posed a threat. The smallest cub, it seemed, had already made that determination. When Buruk's suit finally alerted him to critically low power reserves, he stood slowly. The pack tensed but didn't retreat. The cub looked up at him with its multiple eyes, bioluminescence flickering in what his implant now registered as curiosity friendship. The Alpha approached until its massive head was level with Buruk's chest. For a moment, neither moved. Then the creature exhaled, a warm breath that fogged Buruk's visor, and turned away. The pack followed, moving as a coordinated unit back toward the ice formations. The small cub lingered, looking back at Buruk one final time before scampering after its family. 72 hours later, when the rescue ship Aurora's Hope descended through Zephyr 7's atmosphere, they found Buruk's survival pod surrounded by Kethril. The pack had remained, keeping watch over the strange visitor. The smallest cub sat directly beside the pod's entrance, its bioluminescence pulsing in steady, patient rhythms. As Buruk emerged to meet his rescuers, he turned back to the waiting pack. The cub rushed forward one last time, pressing against his leg in what he now recognized as a Kethril embrace. Sometimes, Buruk realized, the most advanced intelligence in the universe was knowing when to trust a hug from the smallest among us. The pack watched as the human ship lifted into the sky, their bioluminescence painting the frozen landscape with colors that spoke of understanding, acceptance, and the universal language of compassion that transcended the boundaries between species. And